I recently faced a homeowner's worst nightmare. The HOA ordered me to drive 2 hours from another city and hand over my gate keys, and her excuse, she said there was a severe weather alert and needed to mitigate hazards. Funny thing is, the only thing blowing that night was her cover. But let me start from the beginning. The phone buzzed on the hotel nightstand. A furious, insistent vibration against the cheap laminate wood. It sounded less like a call and more like an angry hornet trapped in a jar. I cracked one eye open. The alarm clock display glowed a malevolent red 3:27 a.m. A call at this hour is never good news. It's the kind of call that rips a hole in the quiet fabric of your life. The one that tells you someone is gone or something is burning. My heart hammered against my ribs. A frantic drumbeat of panic. Victoria Hale, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, self-appointed queen of our quiet suburban cul-de-sac. Why in God's name was she calling me at 3:27 in the morning? I swiped to answer, my voice a gravelly mess. What? There was no preamble, no apology for the hour, just the crisp, entitled snap of her voice, as if she were ordering a latte and not shattering someone's sleep. Ethan, it's Victoria. There's a severe weather alert. High winds. I'm doing a property sweep for potential storm hazards, and I need access to your side yard. Your gate is locked, so I need you to come unlock it now. Drive back tonight, Ethan. I sat up, the thin hotel blanket sliding to my lap. The air conditioning hummed, a low, monotonous counterpoint to the absurdity of the conversation. Victoria, it's the middle of the night, and I'm 2 hours away in another city for a work conference. I told you this last week. I remembered, the email exchanged distinctly, a curt, professionally worded heads up that I'd be gone Thursday through Sunday. Her reply had been a single passive-aggressive word. Noted. There was a pause on her end. A beat of manufactured patience that I knew was her tell for when she was about to double down. Yes, I'm aware of your trip, she said, her tone dripping with condescension, but the bylaws, Ethan, are quite clear. I have them right here in front of me from the manual. Section 4B. In an emergency, board can access property of a potential emergency. The HOA board reserves the right to access any property to mitigate imminent danger. A dead branch overhanging the common path could be a liability. I need your keys. I scrubbed a hand over my face, the ridiculousness of it all starting to curdle into anger. A dead branch at 3:30 a.m. You want me to get dressed, check out of my hotel, drive 2 hours back to Willow Creek, unlock a gate so you can look at a tree branch, and then drive 2 hours back. Is that the request? It's not a request, she clipped back, her voice losing its faux velvet coating and revealing the steel underneath. It's a directive. Your lack of preparation doesn't suspend the rules. If you're not going to be a responsible homeowner, I have to be. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. This was Victoria's playbook. She used the HOA bylaws like a weapon, a dense, unreadable tome of regulations she could twist to justify any intrusion, any power play. She thrived on creating problems only she could solve. No, I said. The word was quiet, but it felt solid. Heavy. I'm not doing that. Check the branch in the morning. If it looks like it's going to fall, send me a picture. I'll call a tree service when I get back on Sunday. That's a reasonable solution. Reasonable is not what the bylaws dictate, she hissed. Cooperation is. This is your final opportunity to comply, Ethan. I need access now. I can't be held responsible for what happens if you refuse. A threat. It was always a threat wrapped in the language of rules and responsibility. She wasn't worried about a branch. She was testing a boundary. She was seeing if she could make me dance at 3:30 in the morning from 100 miles away. Held responsible for what, Victoria? A road gust of wind. An act of God you plan to personally reprimand. My sarcasm was a defense mechanism, a shield against the sheer grinding frustration. Consider me non-compliant. Don't call this number again tonight. I hung up before she could respond, tossing the phone back on the nightstand. Sleep didn't come. The storm was bait, a test to confirm I wasn't home. By Sunday, the sky was harmless. My anger wasn't. Pulling into my driveway, everything looked normal. The lawn was neat. The hedges were trimmed. The big oak tree in the front yard stood placidly, all its branches intact. For a moment, I felt a flicker of relief. Maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe she'd just been on one of her late-night power trips and had given up after I'd hung up on her. Frank chewed on his lower lip, his gaze shifting between us and Victoria's house. He was weighing the risk of helping a neighbor against the risk of angering the queen. Finally, he let out a long sigh. All right, he said, his voice low. For your granddad. He was a good man. He always brought our mail bin up from the curb. For us, after he got his, let's go inside. I'll write down what I saw. As we sat in Frank's kitchen, the smell of lemon polish hanging in the air, watching him carefully write out his account, I felt the first real spark of hope. Victoria's story, so solid and impenetrable in the clubhouse meeting, now had a hairline fracture, and we were going to hammer a wedge into it until her whole fortress of lies came crumbling down. Neighbor testimony wasn't a smoking gun, but it was ammunition, and we were just starting to load our weapons. Armed with Frank's statement, Marcus and I shifted our focus from the neighborhood to the institution Victoria controlled, the HOA itself. If she was brazen enough to lie about a break-in, it stood to reason this wasn't her first abuse of power. It was just the first time she'd been caught. Public records tied the pricey new landscaper to Victoria's brother-in-law, Martin Jensen. She was awarding a no-bid 5-figure contract to her own family. I breathed, the audacity of it sinking in, and the fence repair company Marcus was already typing. A few clicks later, another document popped up. The owner of Secure Fencing Incorporated was a holding company, and the director of that holding company, Richard Boyd, the sycophantic board treasurer. It was a grift, plain and simple. They weren't just running the HOA, they were fleecing it, funneling our dues into their own pockets and the pockets of their families. The seller's name was listed as Ryan Hale. The name hit me like a physical blow. Ryan Hale, Victoria's nephew, a 20-something kid who had been in and out of trouble for years. Petty theft, a DUI. I'd seen him around her house a few times, usually when he needed money. He drove a beat-up, dark blue sedan. It all fit. We dug deeper into one of the cases. A family named the Garcias. They had been hit with a series of massive fines for landscaping violations, a dying rosebush, a patch of brown grass in the summer. There was one, Patricia said slowly, a man named Arthur Wells. He was the secretary, a good man. He and Victoria clashed constantly. He thought she was a tyrant. He resigned from the board right after the Garcia foreclosure. Said he couldn't be a part of it anymore. I haven't seen him since. Inside the manila envelope were photocopies of several pages from a handwritten ledger. There were columns for property address, violation, fine amount, and a final chilling column labeled assets for recovery. Under the Garcia's address were the words, antique jewelry, grandmother's silver cutlery set, asterisk. That's when we had the idea for the surprise twist, the one that would come from within her own ranks. Arthur Wells was our key, but he was a former board member. We needed someone current. Someone who could corroborate Arthur's story and provide fresh intelligence. Our target was Brenda, the other board member. Unlike Richard Boyd, who was clearly a co-conspirator, Brenda seemed more like a true believer, someone dazzled by Victoria's performative authority. I found Brenda watering her petunias 2 days later. She saw me coming and her posture immediately stiffened. Ethan, she said, her tone wary. I don't think we have anything to discuss. The board's position on your issue is final. I'm not here about that, Brenda, I said calmly. I'm here because I found some things I think you need to seek. The night of the special hearing, the community clubhouse was packed. Word had gotten out that this was going to be more than a typical boring meeting. It was Ethan Cole versus Victoria Hale, the final round. This is a lie, I said, holding up the photo of my splintered gate. I detailed Frank Dawson's testimony without using his name to protect him. The person who broke into my house was your nephew, Ryan Hale. The name dropped into the silent room like a stone. Then I played my final card. She kept a ledger. Lies. Victoria shrieked. That's where you're wrong, Victoria, I said calmly. I turned to the end of the table. Brenda. By the time the sun rose, detectives were going through Victoria Hale's home office. They found the little black ledger. It detailed not just my theft and the Garcias, but half a dozen others. In her garage, they found the rest of the stolen goods, Mrs. Garcia's antique jewelry, a silver cutlery set, and there, wrapped in an old dish towel, were my grandfather's medals. Ryan Hale was arrested that same day. Faced with the pawn shop video, he confessed immediately, implicating his aunt in the scheme. Victoria and Richard Boyd were arrested. Later that week, Frank Dawson no longer had to worry about his fence. Mrs. Whitaker could let her cat out without fearing a fine. That evening, I hung back my grandfather's picture where it belonged. Marcus came over that night. We didn't need to talk much, we just sat with a buyer in a neighborhood finally free.